What's going on, everybody? Today in the film room, going to be looking at the Steelers' defensive performance versus the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. 17 points allowed, a couple turnovers, but well over 400 yards allowed as well, nearly 6 yards per play for Dak and company. So I just want to talk through some of the positives, some of the negatives that I saw on tape, break down some of the more plays that stand out, if you will. If you could, just make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. All that stuff is greatly appreciated on my end. Let's get started. So first play I want to talk about here is this red zone turnover that the Steelers created in the first half of this one. You know, I did say that I thought that there were a couple times in the red zone that Dak kind of short-circuited a little bit, but I think that this play, if you really watch the end zone angle of it, kind of shows the gravity of a guy like TJ Watt, how cognizant opposing quarterbacks really have to be whenever he's in the game. And you can really tell by Dak's drop right here that he is trying to kind of drift to his left, our right on the screen. And really the reason for that is because the Cowboys are in 5-0 protection, so they're not giving their right tackle any help. You can see Watt showing off the bend. He's basically trying to go to a ghost move here, bend up the arc. But what that does is it kind of brings Dak to pressure. Herbig's spin move doesn't land, but he does a good job staying with the rush and then finishing. And, of course, those guys are really good about getting the ball out on contact. And that's something that I think, really sets a guy like TJ apart. But in this one, I said it in the pregame and I think the postgame, but I think the film really matches this as well. When those guys were able to get one-on-ones and the Cowboys were in 5-man protection, I thought that the edge rushers did a very good job winning. Now right here, TJ is going to try to get chipped by the back, does a good job staying with the play. But right here to Herbig off the edge, you'll look at him set up the outside rush with a little stutter step, a little Euro step to the outside, dip underneath contact, and win on the inside track. Unfortunately, doesn't get the sack. I think you could probably argue that this is holding or a block in the back. But this is a 3rd and 1 play that, that disruption in the pocket forces, an intentional grounding play. And then just like right here, this was really a constant all game. I think PFF charted both the Steelers edge rushers with 4 pressures. That matched what I had as well. Really nice rush from both sides here. TJ working against Tyler Smith, who came in for Tyler Guyton in this one. Again, setting his move up with good footwork, dip and rip on the inside track, and then Watt pretty much easily wins on the outside track as well. And I think that this is a good example of what I refer to as like kind of layering rushes. So you get a guy that's working high in Watt and you get a guy that's working low in Herbig. And it just makes for a really muddy pocket for the quarterback because he doesn't really have a good place to step up into. So I thought both those guys had good games. Of course, it is notable now that the Steelers' depth at edge rusher is becoming quite tested with Herbig probably out this week due to injury. They lost to Marvin Leal as well. So, but, I did think that those 2 guys in particular played really well. Another player that I thought played well in certain aspects, which we'll talk about the full kind of picture of things, but I thought Joey Porter Jr. played really well in coverage in this one. He had some really impressive man coverage reps when the Steelers did go to their cover 1 looks on CeeDee Lamb, following him around. But this is a play that I really wanted to talk about in coverage as well. Makes a really nice, sweet interception on a deep post route down the middle of the field. Nice return here as well. But just want to talk about the reason I like this is, something that I wanted to see. I think I was on a different podcast a couple weeks ago. I just wanted to see a little bit more urgency from Joey in zone coverage, make sure that he was really locked in because I think that those man coverage assignments, you could tell like he brings it, the intensity. I think he takes those as more of a challenge, but he does a really nice job here staying on the upfield shoulder and then driving on the football. And this is an excellent track from him, to be honest with you. I know a lot of players or a lot of fans, I guess, were worried about maybe his like slow-ish start to the season, but I actually think Joey's been pretty good, and I thought this was probably his best game from a coverage perspective. Another guy that I thought had a really extremely good game in this one was rookie linebacker Peyton Wilson, number 41. So one of the things that the Steelers were trying to do in this game was play a little bit more too high. They weren't clearly as concerned about the Cowboys' rushing attack. They were trying to make sure they kept a lid on the explosive plays, which we're going to talk about, but they wanted to defend the run with some light boxes. So right here, even with the Cowboys, having a tight end to the core with their 11 personnel looks, the Steelers are going to be in a light box. They've essentially got 6 guys here. So what that means is going to be Peyton Wilson's going to have to ball fit. He's basically going to work from A gap to C gap. Does a really nice job, again, reading this very clearly, matching the back or matching the track of the back, keeping his shoulder square, and then a really nice wrap-up tackle there, no yards after contact. I think that was a gain of 2 or 3 yards on first down, so an unsuccessful play for the offense. And then this was one of my favorite plays that I think I've seen him make as a rookie, because I thought this was overall, his best game that we've seen from him so far. But I think it kind of highlights some of the things that he can do once he starts playing to his full athletic capabilities. And they're just going to run a simple toss crack play here. It's going to stretch the perimeter of the defense. Excellent job here, sliding and slicing underneath that block. And one of the things I want to talk about is, if you listen to linebackers, coaches talk in clinics and things like that, if you're going to backdoor a block like this on a run to the perimeter, you better make the tackle. Because if you don't, that's going to leave a huge crease for the running back to cut back into. And you can see he has the range and the athletic ability to go sideline to sideline there. That was a gain of 0, I believe, on first or second down. So another unsuccessful run play for the Cowboys, and a really nice stop for the Steelers defense. Now, before we get in to some of the struggles in this one, I just want to remind everybody about the YouTube membership opportunity. This week, I went live over there and streamed for over an hour and a half, going through every single play of the Steelers offense in Week 5. So if you're looking for some more detailed X's and O's content from me, that's the place to be. Link will be in the description. Let's get back to this one. So one of the things I think we talked about a lot on this channel is just the miscommunication errors on defense. And this is a really good look at this. So this is actually the second play of the game, which is even a little bit more concerning. I thought that the Cowboys may look to go a little bit more empty after the Colts had some success with it last week. They're going to shift the tight end out wide, leaving CeeDee Lamb basically in the slot. The Steelers are in man coverage, and just Landon Roberts just doesn't follow the tight end to the boundary. And then this is a simple 13, 14-yard gain. You can see Fitzpatrick and him communicating after the play, but right here you can actually see Roberts. He gets a little bit sidetracked, and then he's kind of in between himself. He doesn't know if he should go out there or not. So it's just some of these blown assignments, which we're going to talk about another one here in a second, have just been reoccurring themes over the last couple of weeks, and they oftentimes have included, some newer players to the defense. So this was a huge play in the first half right here. I believe this was a 27-yard gain to the flat, but kind of want to talk through this one. I kind of struggle to say exactly what this coverage should be necessarily. They're going to kind of get this faux return motion to a bunch set to the bottom of the screen. They're going to be in 3-by-1. Now, NFL teams will usually carry 1 to 2 bunch or trips checks like this that they'll like to play from. The Steelers are, again, going to be playing split field coverage. I think the most common way for this to be defended is what I call a box check. So a box check would mean that we'll just start from the bottom up. Beanie Bishop would be playing the first outbreaker. Patrick Queen would be playing the first inbreaker. Minka Fitzpatrick would be on top and taking the second inbreaker or the deep vertical, and then Dante Jackson would be taking the second outbreaker. But you can watch this play out. Obviously, something goes wrong, right? We got a couple guys that look like they're playing man coverage. Bishop's going to be on CeeDee Lamb from an inside trail position, and then Jackson's going to try to cut this crosser from the outside in. Patrick Queen looks like he's waiting for a crosser coming in as well. And then what we end up getting is we got 2 guys on the crosser, Minka Fitzpatrick in the deep part of the field, and then we get a wide open route to the flat to the tight end. Don't really necessarily make a good tackle in the open field either. That's 27 yards. And I thought explosive plays were a big part of this one. Another area that the Steelers defense has really struggled in has been on third down. The Colts last week, 8 for 15 on third down. The Cowboys this past weekend were 9 for 15. And a lot of these conversions have came on similar plays just like this, where the Steelers defense does a good job on first and second down, forces them into third and long situations. But when the pass rush isn't getting home, opposing quarterbacks have been able to find holes in some of the Steelers' zone coverages. And right here is a good example. They're playing 3 buzz, and all 3 buzz means is they're going to buzz a safety, being Minka Fitzpatrick, down to the curl flat. And they're going to be just in spot drop cover 3 with the Cowboys running a scissors concept, so a post wheel to the top. Now, this is a fantastic throw from Dak, and I don't want to take anything away from that. But just a couple things from the Steelers' perspective. Bishop's going to get hands on number 2 and try to reroute him and then kind of melt to the curl flat window. Now, one thing that you will notice, just take a look at the differences between the depths of where Terrell Edmunds is, like right here, and then where Beanie Bishop is. Now, again, Bishop's clearly being told to reroute because this is something we talked about last week in the film room. But these couple yards of difference all it does is kind of make for a bigger throwing window for the quarterback. So normally your depth or your landmark for these curl flat defenders is at about like 10 yards or so. But in a 3rd and 14 situation and the quarterback looking at you, you probably need to continue to get depth, at least to the sticks, because if he wants to throw this check down here to the flat after they chip block on Watt, that's cool. We'll just come up and tackle. No big deal. But, that's just one of those things. It's a heck of a play by the quarterback, and you don't want to take anything away from it. Of course, this is some of the things that the opposing teams are doing to the Steelers pass rush. On the edge rushers, they're going to chip both those guys, and then they're going to basically just try to buy the quarterback a little bit of extra time. The Steelers don't blitz a ton on 3rd down. They don't blitz a lot, period, right now. So they want to just win with force. So they're a little bit predictable up front, and then you can see what happens when the interior guys aren't able to win, if they get those one-on-one matchups. Next play here, this is another, I think, 3rd and 5 play that resulted in an explosive. Steelers going to be playing cover 2 on this one, and it looks like this is actually supposed to be regular cover 2, not cover 2 man, just based on the technique that I'm seeing from the corners. But one thing to note here is you can see pre-snap, looks like Terrell Edmonds is a little bit confused. Him and Minka Fitzpatrick are trying to communicate. And I think I have an idea on why this play gets completed. And part of it has to do with Dak looking down the middle of the field to get the safety to kind of open up his hips. But also you really don't want, if you're the player on number 3, so like Edmonds is right here, you really want to wall him upfield. You don't want to let him cross your face and go down the middle, because that's where the soft spot in the zone is going to be. Or one of the soft spots, excuse me. But this is another throw from Dak just deep down the field, creating an explosive. But you can see, like, Minka, his eyes almost immediately, as soon as he sees Edmonds get crossed right here, he works back. Once his hips are flipped right here, this is going to that void in the coverage is just far too wide. And this ends up being like a 48-yard gain. So these types of plays, just not being able to get off the field on 3rd downs have been really killers for them. Again, this time is a little bit different. Like, they don't end up chipping anybody. But you can see, like, when the Steelers don't win up front with their pass rush, there have been some holes in their pass defense that I think are particularly concerning, especially over the last 2 weeks. It's kind of led to, some of their struggles in this 2-game losing streak that they've been into. This play right here, I think this is the final explosive play that I wanted to go over, but this is a big play in the game as well. Another like 27, 28-yard play. The Cowboys came into this one with one of the least explosive offenses in the league in terms of explosive play rates. Here, they're going to be playing 2-man, at least from my vantage point. So this is just man-to-man with two deep safeties over the top. And 2-man is not a coverage that's used a lot in the NFL, because most times they don't want to give it because the quarterback can run and scramble with everybody's back to the quarterback. But Dak's he's not really a scrambler. So he's a guy who does get 2-man a lot. Sometimes like guys like Tua, guys like real pocket passers get it more than anything. But I think this is just one of the things that we've been seeing. Teams are kind of starting to pick on Beanie Bishop a little bit. Like when you go into the season with the undrafted free agent as your every down slot corner, he's been responsible for some coverage bust, or at least he looks like it from a film standpoint. And then right here, they're going to put a kick returner type in here in the slot, and he just ends up eating up space. And then Bishop never gets hands on, and this basically just turns into a foot race. And Turpin's a really fast dude, creates a ton of separation. I mean, again, I think that we can probably acknowledge that Dak's a really good quarterback. He throws like balls like in between the seams, in between the numbers, with touch and accuracy about as good as anybody. But this is like too easy for a quarterback of his caliber. So I think that's worth noting. Just got some things to clean up. I mean, Cam Sutton's going to be out for another 3 weeks, so we'll just have to see how they can potentially right the ship. And just another thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit, I mentioned that, we would go over the good and the bad, but I wanted to kind of go over maybe some of the mixed stuff that I saw on film too. And this is one of the examples that I wanted to talk about. I mentioned that Joey Porter Jr. was really good in coverage in this one, I thought, and this catch isn't even on him. This is just a throw to the curl area. He's responsible for the deep third, all that stuff. But one thing that you'll notice right here, again, we're just, instead of wrapping up, I thought that he had been doing a little bit better job over the first couple of weeks or first month or so in terms of wrapping up in the open field as a tackler, and that just wasn't the case in this one. For whatever reason, he was consistently just trying to punch the ball out instead of actually tackling guys. This is another example. Again, the Steelers are trying to defend with a really light box, and he kind of sort of gets in on the run fit here a little bit, but instead of tackling, just kind of punches at the ball, doesn't really want to tackle. Again, I think that that's something on film that I don't particularly like seeing, especially from your corners, and that led to him missing a couple tackles in this one that I thought that he had the opportunities to make. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I really appreciate you guys kicking with me on the channel and all that stuff, and all the support throughout the season so far. I will be back sometime in the next 24, 36 hours to drop the Steelers Raiders preview. I'm really excited about going over that stuff with you guys. I've already taken a little bit of a peek at the Raiders film. I have a lot of thoughts on that, as you could probably imagine. So just as one more reminder too, please make sure that you check out our channel sponsor, Homage. I will leave that linked in the description. They got a bunch of new t-shirt designs coming out that I'm really excited. I know you guys are going to really rock with those. So, as always, thank you guys for the support. Peace and love.